upon some of these themes now and ask how Republican voters are feeling about their president today. Is their support wavering or strengthening in light of the tariffs? Erol is in Detroit, Michigan, and Barry is in Newport Neach in California. Thanks very much indeed to you both for joining us. Erol, let me start with you. Are you in support still of your president despite the economic turmoil that has been unleashed?
Oh, absolutely, because it's a tough medicine that the American economy has needed to take for a long time. It's important for me to realize that these are reciprocal tariffs. These are not punitive tariffs, which would be a much different situation. Donald Trump, for the first time, he won the American working class voter, which is what I am part of. We're the party of the working class, and the promise he made to the unions, that he made to the American auto workers specifically, were these tariff-based solutions. And so the short-term economic pain, that's going to be felt quite a bit by transnational equity holders, which represent about 1 in 10 Americans. But me and my friends, we're really not feeling the short-term situation. We think that all these countries are going to come to the table and work with us because we're just asking for free trade. We're not asking for punitive trade agreements, and we're hoping, as we've already seen with 70 countries come to the table, that Donald Trump has that gravitas to bring his vision. So he made these promises to the American people, and when equality feels like oppression to the rest of the world, I think that sends a pretty big red flag to the quality of life for the American workers. So I'm very much supporting the president.
Well, they're not really reciprocal, though, are they? Because we're talking about countries that, might happen to sell more to the United States because many of them are just incredibly impoverished and they don't buy very much from the United States. So it's not like Cambodia has put a 49% tariff on America. There is just a historic trade deficit. So the word reciprocity is completely baseless.
Cambodia has a 93% tariff on United States goods, actually, to be very specific.
Well, it's not a 93% tariff. They just happen to sell more to America than they buy.
Well, they do, and a lot of countries do, and it's important to understand that the American worker and the American Rust Belt has been frozen out of the global economy. Now, that is a fair point to make, that in certain third world countries, there's going to be a trade imbalance. But that doesn't mean that there needs to be barriers to entry on either side. Total free trade, which the U.S. taxpayer guarantees by the U.S. Navy, is something that's enjoyed by everybody worldwide. And that's something that the American taxpayer has voted for somebody to go in and do that. So, yes, you need to sort of carpet bomb the entire situation if you want to do this. You can't do this surgically. You have to be very broad spectrum and bring people to the table. That's the Donald Trump style.
Barry, what do you think?
I think that you saying that we need to do a broad spectrum, referencing bombing in an economic sense is kind of crazy. I voted for Trump because it was almost impossible to do business under Biden. And Trump kind of made the promise that we were going to bring business back. I'm already seeing this in my life with international clients. I'm a consultant, and the atmosphere is not one that's fostering cooperation. If anything, the international community freaking hates us right now, and I don't see how that's going to help keep my grocery bill down. And also, you brought up the reciprocity of tariffs, and I'm just not understanding it because, he said that we're doing these tariffs so that we can get back in the green. The United States has the largest GDP, for one, so I think that as leaders, especially post-World War II, we could take a little bit on the chin to help the rest of the world kind of elevate. And at the same time, this feels like war. This feels like major war, and I don't see how this helps us. Actually, I think that we need to be working together and not freezing out people that are supposed to be our allies.
What are you most worried about, Barry?
I'm worried about, for one, my grocery bill going up. It's already quite high here in California, and we import a lot of our goods from Mexico and around the world. So seeing that in the kind of economy that we've got right now, I just don't know how families are going to be able to keep up with it. This seems kind of like a war between the top 1%, and we, the not top 1%, are going to get posed on it.
Erol, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, those are some good points. And I think it's important to realize that since Bretton Woods at the end of World War II, through the Marshall Plan until today, we have taken it on the chin to rebuild the world. And it's been a big sacrifice when you notice that, Europeans have free healthcare and free education. We don't have that in the U.S. because we've been providing security blankets. When it comes to your food at home, I'm happy to let you know that these tariffs will actually cause American farmers to sell more food domestically, which we will see the price of American produced food come down, especially see the price of eggs coming down. Now, if you want to get a Mexican avocado, you might pay a quarter more for it until we get to the end of it. But it's important to realize how tariffs also impact people. When you see a 10% tariff rise, the way that it usually impacts the consumer comes out at around 1 to 2%. When Trump put 20% tariffs on China last time, the actual effect of the consumer was negligible. Why? Because the Chinese companies need to maintain their market share, just like Mexican agriculture exporters will need to maintain their market share. So there's also a provision in this trade war that anything on the water currently will not be affected. So there won't be any short-term pain. So as long as these countries come and negotiate with us, I think it's important. But as an American citizen, you've been paying for the welfare of people all around the world. And you said we have the biggest GDP. That's great. But we also have a $36 trillion national debt. That means my household and your household each owe $109,000, Barry. And that's a lot of money. And I don't have that kind of money to keep paying. So we need somebody who can balance this budget, who can reduce the interventionist, globalist American policies and bring home these factory jobs. And even though I concede these factory jobs aren't going to be the factories of the 1960s, it's about owning the means of production and making sure that we have a strong national debt. So I think we do need to take it on the chin this time, but this time for Americans, as opposed to last time we did it gratefully for the world. And I think that's an important differential to make.
Well, I have a question for you there then, Erol.
Yeah, go for it, Barry.
So you're saying that, we're going to be onshoring factory jobs at the same time as we're kind of booming through an AI revolution and automation. Are there really going to be jobs for people to go back to?
Right. So that's a great point. And you're onshoring the means of production. These factories are going higher and higher automated. So then the question begs to ask, as we move towards an economy where AI and robotics are going to be taking away a lot of traditional jobs, it would be incumbent upon us to make sure that the means of production are onshored. And now it would be much more middle-class jobs. You would have perhaps technician jobs working with the robots and things like that. But you make a good point. We're not bringing back sweatshops to replace the situation. We're trying to bring back modernized labor and also divest from what has effectively been using global slave labor in many situations to produce cheap economy.
We're running slightly short of time. I just want to get one more line from Barry, if that's okay, Erol.
Yes.
Barry, I mean, do you feel that these tariffs, very briefly, do you feel that these tariffs could potentially bring manufacturing back to the U.S.?
Honestly, I don't know. My major concern is that the people who my whole life have been considered to be allies are going to run to the countries that are not our allies, and we are going to be left hurting. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that these tariffs are going to set spark to something that we can't undo, and our children are going to pay the price.
Erol and Barry, we are running out of time. It's very good to have your views, and I'm sure this debate will continue for many weeks and possibly months to come. Erol in Detroit, Michigan, Barry in Newport Beach in California, both voters of Donald Trump, but with differing views on the Trump tariffs. Thanks very much indeed. You're with OS on the BBC World Service. Stay with us, much more to come.